When you hear the word Bitcoin, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most, it's probably digital money, right? Or maybe a super volatile investment. But what if its real purpose isn't financial at all? What if it's actually political? What if it's a tool designed from the ground up to challenge the very idea of power? Well, today we're going to dive into that exact idea, all through the eyes of one of Bitcoin's most important thinkers. And look, that's the common take, and it's not wrong. Bitcoin is a type of digital cash, and for a lot of people, that's pretty much where the story begins and ends. But according to Andreas Antonopoulos, thinking that way is like looking at the tip of an iceberg and totally missing the massive, powerful structure hidden just beneath the surface. For Andreas Antonopoulos, a technologist and probably one of the most passionate educators in this whole space, money is just the starting line. He argues that if you're only looking at Bitcoin as a currency, you're missing the forest for the trees. He sees it as something way bigger, a radical shift in how we actually organize ourselves as a society. So what's the deal? Is it just a shiny new asset for Wall Street to play with, or is it a political weapon for the masses? That is the big question we are going to unpack right now. All right, let's get right to the heart of it. Is Bitcoin just another financial product, a digital thing to be bought, sold, and regulated? Or is it something much, much more radical? A technological movement that wants to fundamentally change who gets to be in charge? Let's be real. This is what almost every conversation is about. The crazy price swings, the dramatic highs and lows. The entire public story around Bitcoin is almost completely dominated by how it performs as an investment. But from Antonopoulos' point of view, focusing only on the price is a huge distraction. And boom, this quote just nails his point perfectly. Think about it. Email was the first killer app for the internet, right? But the internet was so much more than that. It was this platform for anyone, anywhere, to create and innovate. And Antonopoulos says Bitcoin is exactly the same. It's not just money for the internet, it's the internet of money. And currency? That's just the very first app running on this brand new decentralized platform. Okay, so if Bitcoin isn't really about money, what's the problem it's trying to solve? Well, for Antonopoulos, the problem is all about how power gets concentrated and, abused within our traditional systems. He loves to use these real-world stories to make his point, because this isn't some abstract philosophical issue. It's something that affects real people in very real ways. So the story goes like this. He had one of his books translated into Russian, and the publisher owed him a small payment. We're talking just $500. It should have been a totally simple, routine international transaction. Or at least you'd think so. But the money never showed up. When he looked into it, he found out the payment was flagged and completely blocked by his own bank. Not because of the amount, not because of the company sending it, but for a reason that just shows you how absurd the system can be. You heard that right. The sender's first name, Oleg, which is one of the most common names in Russia, happened to be on some security watch list. And just like that, a totally legitimate payment gets shut down, no questions asked. This is the exact kind of arbitrary, top-down control that he says is just baked into our centralized systems. And here's the crucial takeaway from that story. Antonopoulos believes a better system is one that is neutral. It's a system where the rules for money work just like the rules for the internet. The network doesn't look at your data packets and judge what's inside. It just sends them. He argues a neutral form of money should do the exact same thing for value. So this brings us to the solution he's so passionate about. If the problem is rulers who can just change or enforce the rules however they want, the answer is a system that has rules but no rulers. This right here is the absolute core of the political vision. Instead of a system where a person or a committee in some boardroom gets to make the call, you have governance by algorithm. The rules are right there in the open source code, and they're enforced by pure mathematics and network consensus, which is basically just thousands of computers all over the world agreeing. The rules are predictable, they're transparent, and they can't be changed on a whim. And what's great about this slide is how clearly it lays out the difference. The old system? It's all about human authority, politics, and gatekeepers telling you what you can and can't do. This new system? It's based on math, on consensus, and on code that's open for anyone to see. One requires permission. The other is open to absolutely everyone. Now, Antonopoulos is very clear that for a blockchain to be truly revolutionary, it has to have these 5 key ingredients. It's got to be open, so anyone can join in, public, so all the transactions can be verified, borderless so it exists beyond any single country's control, neutral so it doesn't pick sides, and finally, censorship resistant so no single person or group can block a transaction. If you take away even one of these pillars, he says you just end up rebuilding this same old broken system. This is one of his most powerful lines. It really gets to the heart of what a borderless, censorship-resistant system means. Governments can try to ban it, sure, but because it's a decentralized global network, you can't just put it back in the bottle. You can't contain it within national borders or just flip a switch to turn it off. So we have this powerful, decentralized system, but who's it actually for? Is it just for a bunch of tech geeks and investors in wealthy countries? Well, Antonopoulos would say that the people who stand to benefit the most are not who you might think. He argues that the real world-changing impact of this technology isn't for the 1 billion people who already have decent banking and financial services. No, it's for the other 6 billion, the people who are unbanked, underbanked, or living under regimes that are politically or economically oppressive. I mean, think about it. For people whose national currency is collapsing, whose life savings can be seized in a heartbeat, or who are just completely cut off from the global economy, a decentralized and censorship-resistant money isn't just a neat idea. It's a tool for survival. It gives them defensive power against corrupt institutions. He specifically points to places like Venezuela, where hyperinflation and strict government controls have absolutely destroyed people's savings. In a situation like that, having an asset that exists completely outside the control of any single government or bank can be a genuine safe haven. It's a way to protect your value and hold on to a little bit of economic freedom. So where does all this leave us? What's the ultimate vision here? Well, it's nothing less than a fundamental reimagining of the entire relationship between money, the individual, and the state. I love this quote because it just perfectly captures the whole attitude. This technology isn't designed to be comfortable or easy for the establishment to swallow. It's meant to be disruptive. It's chaotic. And it is, at its core, anti-authoritarian. It doesn't ask for permission. It just goes ahead and builds an alternative. And really, that's the ultimate question that Antonopoulos leaves us with. For centuries, the power to create and control money has been one of the biggest pillars of state power. So what happens if that link gets broken by a global neutral system based on math? What kind of world does that create? We don't have the answer yet, but it's a revolution that might already be happening right under our noses.